This lens is really kind of the pinnacle of Canon telephotos, I'd say. I mean, I've shot the 200 millimeter f2 or f1.8 even, both
1.8,
those
yeah.
ones, and still, like, this was the EF mount pinnacle for me.
Yeah, I mean, for renderings and for portraits, like, that was my favorite lens. I would always take that lens with me. Always.
And you know what's really funny? I never actually shot this at 1.2. Really, I did a couple of times,
A little
but
bit, but it'd be hard to get it at
yeah,
1.2. It'd be
yeah.
really, especially if you're working with people.
Yeah, with the autofocus, I mean, the 1.2 is really for like full body shots, in my opinion. Like if you want some like major bokeh and you want to get like full body or whatever, that's where the 1.2 is really
Yeah.
useful. If you're going in there for closer shots, then shoot at f2 and you get a little bit better rendering. In
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
generally shoot it at 1.8 or f2, especially if you weren't doing minimum focus distance stuff.
Yeah,
But it's a fantastic lens. I think part of the problem with that lens, though, is that autofocus is pretty slow, and if you use it in low light, sometimes it hunts, but it's still worth it.
yeah. Even at f2, the rendering is still so unique, and like compared to like the 85 millimeter 1.8 from Canon and stuff. Just what is it? What's special about this lens? Like
The colors look amazing. I feel like the bokeh obviously is amazing, but it also gives you something like magical looking in the photos. Like I feel like a lot of professional portrait photographers that would shoot stuff that you'd see in magazines would rely on this kind of lens. Like this one gets used a lot by pros. So like when you see the pictures from this in magazines and then you start making it yourself, you're like, wow,
yeah,
this is incredible. I can do so much more than I could before with this one piece of gear.
yeah. When I first bought this lens, I was just kind of blown away with the first pictures I took with it. There was just like, holy crap, like this is like another level, even compared to the 50 millimeter 1.2. I had that lens before.
Yeah, it's another level for sure.
Yeah, let's explain it in photos, and let's take a look at some photos that we've shot with it.
Yeah, let's jump on that. All right, so this is a photo that I took that's actually a composite. This is a couple shot HDR that I did to get the sky back on the Canon camera. I just really like the expression that this little girl made, and I think that normally I would shoot it a little tighter and closer, but if you're using this kind of lens to make an environmental portrait, it can look really good, and it can really work out well. This photo was kind of similar. This is more of a wide angle shot for an 85. This definitely is not minimum focus distance. And this photo is actually a gift that I gave to my wife. This is my wife in this photo for our 1-year anniversary. She wanted to go do a bridal shoot. Here it was. This one here, this one's really cool because you can see kind of the bokeh that's coming off the couple there. And you can see like the amount of focus that it still gets with the couple's faces. Like they're really sharp, but the bokeh all around them, even like their gloves and like just her hair, which is like 6 inches out, is all nice creamy bokeh. And I really like the colors for this. A lot of the times when you shoot this kind of photo in the winter, especially in Colorado, you don't get many colors, and it's just not quite as nice on some of my other lenses. But this one is just so much detail, and love this rendering.
Yeah, so actually this first one I shot on film. I think this was Portra 160 if I remember correctly, and yeah, I mean, if you have this lens and you want to buy like an old film camera, I think that's a great option too. 1.2 really does look good, and
bokeh's awesome on that shot.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, just something to keep in mind, I guess. This picture right here was actually shot at 1.2. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of shooting at 1.2, but this is one of the ones that I clearly remember, and I can look at the XF data of 1.2. So yeah, I mean, you can just get massive bokeh at this 1.2 here, and yeah, if you zoom in, it's somewhat sharp. It's not like the sharpest picture in the world.
It still looks like both of her eyes are in focus, though.
No, not quite. I mean, it's still pretty shallow, but I mean, I didn't take this like super close. But yeah, I mean, you'll find a little bit of chromatic aberration, but I think it still works out pretty good.
It really has a nice art rendering, though.
Yeah, and then this is taken at like a higher aperture, and as you can see, the rendering is still really good. It kind of has that 3D pop. That's one of my favorite things about this lens, is it just reminds me of like Zeiss lens pretty much, not so much Canon. And yeah, I mean, I'd say this lens is great for any portrait photographers. I mean,
yeah, if you're doing pet portraits, or if you're doing weddings and you're mostly photographing people and you're getting paid for it and you're doing a DSLR, I mean, should definitely consider this lens.
If you're somehow still shooting an EF mount in 2020, just buy this lens. It's probably going to keep on going down in price. I mean, if you just want the ultimate portrait lens, and 85 is kind of your jam, then
and you don't mind hauling around that big lens, there's a lot of glass in there.
Yeah, and in my experience, it was like just fast enough to shoot a wedding. So if you're looking into getting this lens for wedding work,
the
it's like
wise.
Yeah, it's like just barely fast
Yeah, there's
enough.
some times where you get frustrated and you're like, oh, I could have gotten that shot if I had faster autofocus. But the number of shots that you do get, it's worth it. It's just such a great lens.
Yeah, a little bit expensive, but if you're shooting like I said, if you're shooting the EF mount in 2020, you should probably get it.